It's a pleasure to speak with you today. I'm excited to discuss your latest book, Ambassador Duties and Responsibilities of a Diplomat. Thank you for taking the time to join us. What first inspired you to become a writer? What was it about this topic that drew you to explore it in your work?
First of all, thank you very much for having me this interview. I have published many articles on tourism, public health and sports. This is my first book. Recently I published Ambassador, Duties and Responsibilities of a Diplomat. This diplomat handbook offers a comprehensive exploration of the multifaceted duties and responsibilities that define effective diplomacy. It contains introduction, definition of High Commissioner, Ambassador and Consul, and then how to become a better ambassador and what are the Sri Lankan missions outside the country, and the office of ambassador, embassy staff, diplomatic reports and communication, and Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Ambassador has plenipotentiary powers which gained from Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations 1961 and diplomatic protocol and procedures, diplomatic duties and responsibilities, the role of ambassador, and international culture. This is very important. International culture, and then international relations and diplomacy. Key ambassador skills. What are the skills that ambassador is having, right? And then ultimately the main types of diplomacy, which is very essential to identify the types of diplomacy, and then ambassadors can develop such areas one by one.
I read your book, Ambassador Duties and Responsibilities of a Diplomat, and was deeply intrigued by your analysis of foreign mission and their role in diplomacy. As I continue to explore this topic, I would greatly appreciate your insights on Sri Lankan missions.
Sri Lanka has total number of 51 embassies, 13 consulates and 3 other diplomatic representations in about 63 countries around the world. A successful ambassador is a powerful asset for a diplomacy, and they improve foreign public's perception of their home country, as well as establish critical business or trade relationships. They can turn foe into ally. And former diplomats and researchers stated that most political appointees identified many issues such as weakened professionalism of diplomacy and endanger external affairs. Therefore, ambassadors require diplomatic skills, leadership abilities, and cultural sensitivity. Leadership is so essential in diplomacy, and cultural sensitivity. The real example is US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chan, how she adapted to the Sri Lankan culture, what she used. So see that how she, her cultural sensitivity.
A diplomat is not just a representative of their country, but also a leader in various capacities, a negotiator, problem solver, and a bridge builder. Here's how leadership traits and skills contribute to diplomatic success.
Leadership is a set of mindsets and behaviors that aligns people in a collective direction. It enables them to work together and accomplish shared goals and helps them to adjust to changing environments. If someone asks question about, are leaders born or made? Sometimes we can see some people, so we say, he's having a born talent, he's a real leader. Yeah. The best estimates offered by research is that leadership is about 1/3 born and 2/3 made. It means 2/3 can be implanted. That's the real advantage. Every and each sector, every and each organization, every country needs leaders. That's why the global corporate leadership training market size was valued $33.9 billion in 2023. And it is projected to grow $36.6 billion in this year, 2024. And it will be reached double, $72.65 in 2032.
I'm particularly intrigued by the concept of diplomatic recruiting, and I would love to learn more about how this process impacts both the diplomatic corps and the broader national context. Specifically, I'm curious to understand what are the key factors in recruiting diplomats that can influence a country's foreign policy and international standing. How does the selection process of diplomat reflect a nation's priorities or diplomatic strategies? What are the long-term effects of diplomatic recruitment on a country's global reputation and relations?
Yeah. According to the Transparency International Sri Lanka, a large number of political appointees are connected with diplomacy and they did not have knowledge or experience about foreign relation of the country, and therefore image of the country is adversely affected. There are two types of diplomats. The first one, career diplomats, and the non-career diplomats. Even in US, United States, non-career diplomats are 30% and 70% of diplomats are career diplomats. And some other developed countries, they have proper system of recruitment of diplomats. They have highly competitive entry exams for foreign service. Training at least 1 year. And then the career structure contains representing and protecting the interest and citizen of their home state abroad, and initiating and facilitating strategic agreements, negotiating treaties and conventions, and exchange information, and fostering trade and commerce, as well as keeping international relations. Ambassadors must have specific set of competencies and skills. It is very important. They must expertise in languages and expertise in economics, expertise in international law, and they have different diplomatic norms, they have different etiquette, even the table etiquette, and then the dress code and order of precedence. Those are diplomatic norms. And then the ambassador showcase higher degree of flexibility and intuitive sensitivity for the social game.
Book, you explore the concept of diplomacy in depth. How would you define diplomacy in today's global context? And what role does it play in international relations? One of the key themes in your book is the importance of soft skills in diplomacy. Which specific diplomatic skills do you believe are the most essential for a modern diplomat?
Yeah, well, key ambassador skills are so important in diplomacy. Effective communication, conflict resolution, analytic reasoning. So, if they analyze problems and opportunities, they can easily identify future threats and opportunities. It is so important in diplomacy. And then problem solving, cultural adaptability, as I mentioned before. So how the US ambassador adapt to Sri Lankan culture. It is amazing. And then the negotiation. Negotiation is like blood in the body. So every and each collaboration, they should have negotiation, right? And then emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a key ambassador skill in diplomacy, because they can identify others' feelings. And it is important to talk about the role of ambassador. Early warning, trouble and opportunities. And ambassador work as a builder and fixer of relations, and driver and executor of policy, a protector of citizens. They protect their citizens in the host country, right? And then an integrator of military, and sometimes act as an intelligence officer and proper negotiator. And when we talk about the types of diplomacy, there are so many types of diplomacy: cultural diplomacy, economic diplomacy, bilateral diplomacy, multilateral diplomacy, sports diplomacy, digital diplomacy, and then public diplomacy, defense diplomacy, energy diplomacy, education diplomacy, cyber diplomacy, health diplomacy, and development diplomacy. And development diplomacy is so important for our country, because as we know, 2/3 of world countries are underdeveloped. So therefore, we have to identify what are the issues in the country and then end poverty. So we can use diplomacy to end poverty and zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education. Then people need quality education as well as gender equality, clean water and sanitation, and affordable clean energy